Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the football experience. We have a different but familiar face with us. Matthias is joining us joining me for our 100th episode. Caleb is he has other commitments. We won't go into them, but when real life pops up, then unfortunately the pod takes second seat. But Matthias has joined us. So
Yeah,
Matthias,
not for me, man. When you call, I'm here.
you're always here for me, buddy. But you did ditch us on the last
That's
pod.
it. Yeah, that's true. Actually, I chose to go for a run instead of doing it, so
Yeah,
it's good for my health.
you went to come on and brag about Liverpool's 2-1 win or come from behind win against Newcastle, and you weren't there to
Mm.
share in the spotlight.
No, but I'm sure Caleb did a good job at it because he's also a Liverpool fan. So
Yeah, but Caleb is a little bit more negative than you. So like, even though you guys won, he still sees problems and whatnot, and you know,
yeah,
so he
yeah,
doesn't
that's true.
bask in the sun as much as you currently are.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure. Right now, I'm enjoying some nice Melbourne sunshine, which is great.
Yeah, that's lovely, and I'm enjoying some nighttime. It's nighttime, even though I got this, that's why I got all this artificial light on around me. But Mati, we're gonna make this one short and
Yes.
sweet, like you suggested, and we're only gonna cover one topic. It's not gonna be a 1.5 or 2 hour pod that me and Caleb usually
Yeah.
do. So I think that going forward, I think we're gonna start doing a slightly different format. Try and get those views up. Maybe people will enjoy 20-minute video, 30-minute videos more.
Yeah.
But there's a big game coming up this weekend. Big game. It is Arsenal
Big one.
versus
Yeah.
United.
Yeah. It's a very exciting game, isn't it? Because you would imagine, obviously Arsenal challenging for title, ideally, and United having to make top four again, I guess, because you need that consistency if you want to be a big club. Um, it makes it a big game. One of the big clashes, I guess, of this start of the season.
Well, it's definitely a juicy one. But it's interesting you mentioned that Arsenal are going for the title, but United are going for top
Yeah.
four. Is that sort of commentary based on how they've started? Their not lack of signings, but lack of signings in key positions. Like, why didn't you say that United are going for the title?
Well, I think, well, I guess, yeah, the season started, and so far, watching United, it's been very uninspiring, I guess, seeing them play. You would think that, like, from last season, they had a good season last season, finishing the top four. They're probably the only other team that sort of challenged for the title, but they didn't really. So you would think that this season they'll come in, they'll probably get a few signings. You know, Ten Hag would get his ducks in a row and just like make the team go that one extra level above. But so far, I haven't seen any of that. He hasn't leveled up the team at all. The team kind of looks a bit stale, even. Lacking creativity. There's just like this something about United that's not quite right at the moment, and I don't really know exactly what it is. But just watching them, it feels like there's things missing. There's quality missing. I don't know. It's very strange, isn't it? Although in saying that, the games that I did watch them, they didn't look great, but they still had a lot of really good chances to score goals. Like against Tottenham, they probably missed like two open goals, United, and that would have made a big difference. Scoring those goals would have meant maybe they don't lose that game against Tottenham. But all in all, they lost that game, and they don't look very exciting. I don't know.
Well, I mentioned to Caleb that like at least the games that I watched of theirs. I didn't watch the Forest one, but I watched the one against Wolves and
Yeah,
Tottenham. And yeah, like they did have one or two chances. I know Bruno missed like an open sitter of a header in the first half,
yeah,
but
yeah. He did.
overall, like they're giving me Tottenham-esque vibes of last year,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
they're playing really badly on the eye, but they're still managing to get these like some results. And I know like three games, two
yeah,
wins is it's okay, but they're still playing badly, and eventually that's going to catch up with them. Whereas like
yeah,
I hold the opposite notion where if you're playing good and you're playing nice, attractive football, eventually the results will come if they're not coming yet.
Yeah,
And like I maintain that position, and so I don't know. They've definitely not started the season well, at least in terms of playing style. But in terms of actual points, like
yeah,
6 out of 9
yeah. It's
points,
not too bad, right?
yeah, like it's not too bad. And the 3 points that you dropped, you dropped them to. Well, I know this Tottenham is missing Harry Kane, but it's still a decent Tottenham side.
This is a good Tottenham side. This is a very good Tottenham side. I think the thing about Tottenham right now, I know that it's kind of like off the topic of United Arsenal, but Spurs with Postecoglou, they're very exciting and they're going to play some good football and I think they're going to surprise a lot of teams and at least Tottenham are going to be exciting this season and to me they're probably the better Tottenham that I've seen at least now. Obviously, what is it like 3-4 games in? Like we're not gonna we're not gonna see the true teams yet. The teams are still figuring things out. Teams are still trying to get things together. But so far, you got to say Tottenham have looked very impressive. So I think they're going to have a good season this season. But yeah, so I think losing to them is not the worst thing. I think there's going to be a lot of teams that will lose to Spurs this season.
Yeah, but the whole
Probably normally wouldn't expect to lose to them.
that's the thing. You wouldn't have expected United to lose to them because United, they did they finished the season quite well, and it looked like they were going to kick on as well. And considering Tottenham, they have a new manager. They lost Harry Kane. I think they lost Lloris as well, but was that really a big loss? Who knows?
I think that was actually a blessing in disguise, to be honest.
It might have been a big loss in terms of because he was the captain. The character. He was the captain as well. So in terms of experience, But then again, like you got one team that's like established versus one team that it almost feels like they're starting with a clean slate. They're starting fresh, and United lost to them. And if you're going to go just second half performance, they lost quite convincingly as well.
Yeah, absolutely. But the first half was a interesting half
quite
because
even.
that's the one that United. Yeah, it was quite even, and United really had the better chances in that first half. And if they scored those chances, we'd probably be saying different things. Maybe United win 3 from 3.
I know they had a penalty shout, and I believe they should have had a penalty for a handball.
I believe as well. Yeah, absolutely. Man, the refereeing decisions this season have been the worst I've ever seen in the Premier League. By
Some
far.
of them, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Some of them. But I guess it's easy to get caught up on the bad ones. But there's been quite a few bad ones, I think, that just baffled me completely and made me very upset about referees. But that's a whole other topic. That's like a whole other 30-minute video, if you want to go into it. But
that's a topic for another day. But let's come back to the game. So, all right, Arsenal United. We talked about a little bit about United and how they've at least flattered to deceive so far. What about Arsenal? Yep. How do you reckon they've looked in their first 3 games?
I think Arsenal have looked okay. I mean, obviously they're not at their best, I got to say. But I think Arsenal made really, really, really good signings, especially Declan Rice. I feel like that signing is such a great signing, and with people like that, with players like Declan Rice and all that, it's going to take some time before they're going to be their best version of themselves, right? So Arsenal right now are probably adapting to these new players. You guys are playing. What's the boy from Chelsea?
Havertz.
Yeah, Sid Havertz. You guys have been playing him, starting him in positions that I feel like he should not be playing in. I don't know why Arteta really wants to play him, and especially in midfield, which is very strange.
He's playing him in Xhaka's role as an 8.
Sorry?
He's playing him in Xhaka's role as an 8.
Yeah, exactly, which is, I don't think is the kind of player that you want to have in that position. But it feels like Arteta is trying some things a little different than last season, which is good and bad. Obviously, like it's good if it works out because then you have a new way of doing things. Teams have to figure out how to stop this now, but not so good, I think, because it doesn't seem like it's working too great right now, I would say. But the thing is with Arsenal, you guys have so many good players. You have one really solid midfielder like Declan Rice, put him next to Partey. You got like a really solid midfield. probably one of the best two like the best two midfielders that can play together in the Premier League. And and obviously the team around you's getting better. Like you got some young players like Saka, Martinelli, who are so exciting. Like I love watching them play. Arsenal have a lot of good things going for them. It's just a matter of putting all of these new pieces together with the old pieces, and then being able to kick on from there, right? So it's still very early, but I think Arsenal will challenge for the title for sure.
What have you made of the Partey at right back? Sort of embracing that Zinchenko role, but on the opposite side. But one thing I did mention to Caleb was that at least with Zinchenko, the thing is, it was Zinchenko, Martinelli, Xhaka on that left hand side, and Zinchenko
Yeah,
would overlap at times, but when he would
yeah,
drop into the midfield, Xhaka would actually come out wide, and then he'd be the one overlapping. Whereas Partey, I haven't seen him
yeah.
overlap once. His instructions are
No,
always come into the midfield, always come into the midfield, and that's been creating 2v2s or 3v2s in the opposition's favour against Odegaard and Saka. Whereas last year with Ben White,
yeah.
he would overlap, so it would be those three as a
Mm,
trio. So we've lost that trio on the right hand side. Don't know if you've
yeah.
noticed that. What do you think of that about that as a non-Arsenal supporter?
Yeah, I mean, this is the kind of things that I think. I think it's strange. I got to be honest. I think Arteta trying all these things now is very strange because you would think that like you should go back to what you had last season that worked so well for you, right? Keep going with that. Make sure that your team's solid. You have a great start to the season. Maybe first 6 games or something, you win them all, and then you can start trying little things here and there, right? This Partey thing playing out as a fullback, I don't like it at all. I think it's just so unnecessary, right? Like you have a fantastic defensive midfielder. Why are you playing him out of position? When you have like Ben White is available to play, right? Does he not trust Gabriel? Is that what it is? I don't know. It just feels really weird. I don't like it particularly because you had a good thing going and now you're changing it to try something really weird and different, I guess you could say. Like it's not a conventional thing to put a defensive midfielder at fullback. I mean, you do it if you have to because you have nothing else, but Arsenal have a lot of options, and yet he goes with that. To me, that's very strange. So
But
yeah, I don't know. How do you feel about it? Actually, I'm
well,
intrigued to.
well, if you were going to do it, wouldn't you do it in the opening 3 games against Nottingham Forest, against Crystal Palace, and against Fulham? Fulham maybe not so because
Oh,
they
I
finished like
wouldn't.
ninth or something, 10th, and they actually are all right. But
Yeah,
wouldn't you do it against those teams that you're expected to pick up points against? And the Fulham one,
not really.
that was like one mistake in the first minute, which enabled Fulham then to sit
Yeah,
like pretty much in their box with 10 men behind the ball,
yeah, yeah.
which they wouldn't have if it was 0-0. But they would have been at least 5 meters
They're
higher.
probably
They would have been a little bit
maybe. Yeah,
higher. They would have been higher. So it
yeah,
would have
yeah,
created
for
more.
sure.
It would
Because
have
they
allowed more
had something to
space.
defend.
Exactly. And then obviously like a 90th minute equaliser for them because Gabriel, my suspicion is that he's in the doghouse for disciplinary reasons, not because he's not training hard enough. Maybe because I mentioned to Caleb that uh, I watched Arteta's interview before that Fulham game, and
Yeah,
one of the reporters asked like what's happening to Gabriel, and then Arteta's response was like it was like really cold and like direct. It's like Gabriel knows what he's done or what he needs to do.
oh, interesting.
So it was something along. It was along those lines, but it was like very direct. So it makes me think, oh, it's not
Okay.
like I'm resting him because he played 38 games in the league last season, so I'm going to rest him for the first couple of games this season just so I don't overwork him. It's like, well, no, he just had the off season, like he just had preseason. He was playing in preseason, so like if you're going to rest him in
Yeah, yeah,
preseason. So yeah,
yeah, exactly.
my suspicion is that
There's something.
he's coming late to training, or I don't know. But I'd say it's disciplinary, so that's probably why he's not playing.
Yeah, I mean that's fair enough, I guess. I suppose that is fair enough, right? Like Arteta, he seems like a kind of guy who sticks to his principles and he doesn't really, let players move around that. You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to get away with things like that with him in charge. But it's good and bad, right? Because now now you're putting yourself in positions where you have to play people out of position because you don't want to start Gabriel. And I don't know. I see what you're saying. That point that you made, like, why not try it with these teams that Arsenal's meant to beat, right, at the start of the season? And my point is, why try something now? Like, like you want to start the season as best as possible. You're trying to put a title challenge against one of the greatest teams the Premier League's ever seen, right? You need to win as many games as you can. And the best way to do that is by starting out really strong. Win your first 6 games. And I think those are the games that you should probably not be trying new things, but sticking to the things that you know for a fact have worked for you. Because
The
if you guys,
the counterpoint though is Arsenal started fantastic last season. They had a fantastic 2/3 of the season, but their end
yeah,
was bad. So isn't that the counterpoint? That even if you start
yeah,
excellently, if you finish badly,
but it's,
you finish
but
second.
yeah, I guess, but it's also like the way it happened for Arsenal last season towards the end, right? It was more like it felt like you guys were losing points, not because you were playing badly, because you guys were playing well. It's just I think the pressure got to you guys. Like it's an experience thing. I think maybe a little bit more so than a quality thing, right? Because like football, like when the pressure is on, things get really difficult, and as soon as something goes against you, you can become really negative as a team, and it all just starts to fall apart. And it felt like that happened a few times for you guys, which is the points that you dropped, which lost you the lead in the title race. But I don't know. I think you just stick to your guns, man. At the start of the season, keep it simple. Don't try and overdo much. Just work on the things that you want to implement in the future. Like all these new tactical things, all the new players, all of that sort of stuff. But stick to the basics, the simple things, and just go out there and win games. You don't have to do anything crazy. Just get the points, and then you can start thinking about all of these other things once the season gets really going. But at the start, you just want to pick up as many points as you can. So yeah, it's interesting, and I wonder what Arteta's going to do against United. Like, is he going to play Havertz in midfield? I hope not, for Arsenal's sake, because I think Havertz is such light work, and like especially in midfield, you want like strong players in midfield. People who are solid, people who they may not be the flashiest of players, but they're going to do the hard work. They're going to do all the physical things that you need midfielders to do. And I think that Havertz does not have that in his locker at all. When the going gets tough, I feel like he shies away a little bit. So I just don't see what Arteta sees in him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens, how Arsenal start the game in terms of the lineup.
Well, just to sort of touch on a couple of points, like what my thoughts are, like we have obviously contrasting thoughts on this, but like my thoughts are, if you are going to try anything new, if you are going to try to involve the team based on new personnel that you brought in, it's better to do it, I guess, while you're actually playing well and results are going your way, rather than you have 3 or 4 or 5. You have a run of bad results, and then it's like, oh shit, we need to change something, and then you're under pressure to change something, and then if you change something, and then if it goes wrong, then you're under even more pressure, and then because like the thing is, like, when your original formation and team, they're not performing the way that they were meant to perform, you try to change things, the change doesn't bring any results. So it's like, well, what the hell are you meant to do? That's when managers usually get the sack. Whereas I don't mind this with Arteta trying to add another another tool to the armory or whatever, like another weapon that we can use against teams. I don't mind him trying it out now, especially at the start of the season. And then if that doesn't work, then it's like, okay, well, this doesn't work. We can actually go back to what does work, which is Partey in the midfield. Move Rice to the number 8 position, which everyone expected him to start playing, like being a pretty much a direct replacement for Xhaka, or people expecting him to be a direct replacement for Xhaka. And
yeah, I mean, it's not a replacement. It's a hell of an improvement, to be honest.
Yeah, but
absolutely.
But then if you sort of contrast that, because Havertz has been playing the number 8, I think I'd rather have Xhaka back than Havertz in that number 8 role.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's not his position, man.
It's
It's
not.
so weird. He's
He's
such a. I feel kind of bad for him because I feel like obviously he didn't work out at Chelsea. So far, I don't think he's working out for you guys. But every time that I see him play, he's always playing out of position. Like at
he
Chelsea, he played the
seems
nine
he seems
by himself.
nervous.
He's not really a nine, and he's not really a box-to-box
Yeah.
midfielder. So why do people keep
Well,
playing him out of position? It just doesn't seem to work for him.
Well, I think I mentioned this to. I think I mentioned it to you as well and to Caleb. Like, apparently, by Leverkusen, he was played as like a second striker. So there was the focal, like
Yeah,
the number 9, and then he was played as like a 10 or like a second striker just in
yeah,
behind him that would run.
yeah.
That
That
would try
sounds
to
like
link
his
up with him. That
position.
would try to run on beyond. When I saw him play against City in the Community Shield, I thought he actually looked all right against City. Like he held up the ball well, made a couple of runs, just
Mm.
didn't get on the score sheet, obviously. But I actually
Yeah,
didn't mind him playing as a number 9. I wouldn't want him as my main striker because it just seems like he does not have his finishing boots on. Um, I don't,
yeah. Never
I don't,
does. Yeah,
and I've made this observation last year with Lakonga. Every time I saw Lakonga play, and like you've seen this with young players coming into seniors and coming from juniors into senior football, like if there's this nervousness, then
mm.
there's this stiffness about them, and then that's when they tend to make mistakes. Like their touch is a little bit too
Yeah,
heavy, like they scuff at shots, like they try to shoot too early, or they try to shoot too late. They hold onto the ball too long, and there's just this tendency to make more and more mistakes. And Havertz, I don't know, he
mm.
just seems like there's this nervousness about him, which is probably
Yeah,
why
yeah, for sure.
he hasn't reached this like comfort level like what we've seen like Saka reach or Martinelli or
Mm.
Odegaard. Odegaard, like probably perfect example. Like I think when he came in on loan at Arsenal, you could see some talent there, but he didn't
Yeah,
exactly hit the ground running. But then, like his first full season, when he actually signed as a permanent player, that's when it's like, okay, well, that was probably the reassurance that he
when
needed.
yeah, yeah. I don't know. I just don't see it in habits. Like, and especially in that number 8
You
position.
see talent there,
I
but you don't see where it
no,
can be
there's no doubt
utilized.
the guy. He's a class player. There's absolutely no doubt about that. Like, his technique is impeccable, right? But football is not about just technique. Like, you can have technique and you can be the best technical player, but if you don't have desire, if you don't have like fight, you you you're missing some of probably the biggest qualities in football players. Like, you can have players who are bad technically, but have absolute desire, absolute heart, and want to win, and all they do is fight for everything. Those players are probably even more valuable than someone like Havertz, who's just pure technique, but lacking all of those other attributes. Or he doesn't fully lack them, but he's definitely not very strong in terms of that desire and fight and all that sort of thing. And I don't know. I think personally in midfield, especially in the Premier League, where it's such a physical league, such a fast-paced league, you need midfielders who have that fire, that fight. I understand that there's going to be games where maybe you don't need that more and you need more technical players like Havertz. That's fine. But I don't. I would imagine that at the start of the season, you start with your most solid team, the team that's going to give you the most consistent results. You know what I mean? Or the most consistent gameplay. Or I don't know. It just seems weird how Arteta started the season, because now I feel like you're saying, oh, you want to try new things at the start of the season because if you don't, then and things go wrong, then you're more pressured to change. But now he's changed things, and maybe it hasn't necessarily worked so good. I mean, it hasn't. And now what's the pressure on him to do? What is he going to do now? Like, go back to the normal things, or is he going to keep trying this, or is he going to try something else? Maybe there's even more pressure now because he hasn't been able to start as well as you would hope Arsenal would start.
Well,
So
we need to put this all into retrospect. Like Arsenal have picked up 7 out of 9 points. They can still
yeah,
go.
which is good.
They
But
can still go invincible. Like that's still on the cards.
yeah. I mean, that's not going to happen. But yeah, I guess
Like,
it's a decent start. It's a decent start, but I don't know.
but
I just
the
think
eye
that
test, the eye test is telling me it's not as fluid as
It's
what it
not
was last season.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And I think I want to see that back. I want to see Arsenal be fluid again. I want to see Arsenal do the things that they were doing at the start of last season or the first half of last season. And then you kick on from there, and then you can make the changes. You can try new things once your team is like on a run of winning games and feeling good. Um, but that's my point. That's my view on it. I think obviously Arteta is a better football man than I am, so he's doing things that maybe we don't see or don't understand. But yeah, I don't know. I think he'll eventually get it right, and I think you guys are going to be very good this season. But I just don't know if at the moment he's quite got it there yet.
I, you know what the other thing is? He's probably, in a way, he might be subconsciously forced to be, or feel that he's forced to play Havertz, who is a 65 million pound or euro signing. It's like, well, I need to find a position for him. I need to play him because I'm not going to put 65
Yeah, like
million on the bench. And it's like, well,
yeah,
number 9, you have, and he's looked pretty good like these 3 games
yeah,
that he's played since Jesus has been out. But Jesus is the starter and Nketiah is the backup. Havertz is probably third in line for that number 9 spot. Maybe even, but
yeah,
he started number 9 against Fulham. So
yeah,
Trossard's in that mix as well to start as a number 9. Probably Martinelli as well. They're
mm,
interchangeable. So yeah, maybe he's trying to sort of shoehorn him in, and maybe that's the wrong thing to do, but maybe it's also the right thing to do because, like, okay, well, I'm giving you the chance to make this position your own. Either you take it,
yeah,
or I'm going to change things, and you're going to have to fight your way back in. But I'm giving you an opportunity right now. I'm giving you a free opportunity right now. Otherwise,
yeah.
that opportunity is going to disappear, and I don't know. I feel like at least against Man United, as an outsider, give me your preferred. We'll go with the Arsenal lineup first instead of the home team. What would your preferred lineup be against United?
What my preferred lineup would be?
Yep.
I mean, I would have Gabriel and Saliba at the back for sure. At right back, I would probably have Ben White. At left back, I don't know.
Would you, Tierney's left.
You guys have a few options there.
Tierney's
Yeah,
left.
Tierney's left.
Timber is injured, so there's only Tomiyasu and Zinchenko.
Yeah, so you probably want to start Zinchenko, I would imagine. Then you got
Um,
Partey and Rice in the middle
Hang on.
with Odegaard as a 10.
Would you prefer Zinchenko against Anthony, or would you prefer Tomiyasu against Anthony? I think I prefer Tomiyasu.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, maybe.
remember last year
Yeah,
on Anthony's debut, he was running Zinchenko a little bit rugged.
yeah, but I mean, players can have bad games, and players
Yeah,
can. I mean, Zinchenko is a smart player. He'll learn from. So I think he's the better player than Tomiyasu, but Tomiyasu probably gives you more defensively. It just depends on how scared you are of what's his name,
Anthony,
of Anthony.
Alex.
Yeah, yeah. So I don't know. I think Zinchenko, I would start him, but like I said, yeah, Partey, Rice in the middle, Odegaard as a 10, Martinelli, Saka, and then Nketiah probably up front.
Not Jesus. Jesus
That's
is
what I would do.
back,
But
but he didn't get any minutes against Fulham,
yeah,
but he was on the bench.
interesting. I didn't know he was back, so I would say then maybe depending on how fit he is. I mean, if he's ready to go, then you probably want to play him, but you also don't want to put pressure on him to start, right? Like, because if he's not 100%, it just
Yeah.
depends on whether he's been training with the team and what he's been able to do.
See, that's the thing. Like, if this was at Old Trafford, I think I would go with
Yeah.
Tomiyasu, but because it's at the Emirates, I feel like
Mm,
Arteta might be forced to play Zinchenko in a way because it's like, okay, well, we need to be the ones that are asserting ourselves, and I feel you can obviously
yeah.
assert yourself more with Zinchenko.
Yep.
The only thing is, like, how I talked about that the trio of Zinchenko, Xhaka, and Martinelli from last season. If you play Rice as the
Yeah.
number 8, he might not necessarily know those rotations between Zinchenko and Martinelli. So that's the only
Yeah.
thing that I'm like, well, Rice doesn't quite understand
Oh,
that well, so maybe Zinchenko can't come into the middle. Um,
yeah. I mean, Rice is a smart player, and that's
yeah,
something that you would work on. So he would understand it. Would it work as good as it did last season with Saka? Who knows, right? But he's a good player. He would figure it out, I'm sure, pretty quickly.
yeah. I think, and then I don't think go too. I'd stray too far away from yours, but I think I would just for that reason. I think I would probably actually go Tomiyasu because it would keep things. It would keep the rotations a little bit more simple because it's like okay, Tomiyasu is just going to
Yeah,
overlap when he can, but he'll be a little bit more defensive. Same with Ben White, he's going to overlap, and then Rice doesn't necessarily have to worry about going out wide if like Zinchenko, for instance, comes into the middle. So
yeah,
I think I would keep it simple, and I'd probably go in Kedia to be honest, rather than Jesus, just because
yeah. I think
he's
it's just
played
like
all
a
three games. He scored two, I think, so far.
yeah. He's looked alright, and you gotta reward that as well, right? You
Mm,
want people to feel like if they do well, they will be rewarded by starting again.
yeah, which is weird that he didn't start against Fulham, to be honest, unless he was carrying some sort of
Yeah,
little injury, little knock or something. I don't know,
true, true. That
but
could be the case. Maybe Trossard was really good at training. Who
yeah,
knows?
maybe. Who
These
knows?
these things that happen in the background.
Yeah. And what about your
Um,
United
I guess
11?
my other question,
Or your question, though?
United 11.
Or whatever
No,
you,
I feel like, sorry.
or whatever you wanted to ask.
Well, I was gonna say, do you think that Arteta will start with Havertz or not?
If he does start with him, I'd prefer that he start with him as a number 9. I wouldn't be
Yeah,
opposed to
but
that, but as a number 8, I'll be like, oh, this is asking for trouble.
yeah, I guess, yeah. The question is he gonna stick to his guns with Havertz, or is he just gonna try and change it because maybe he's not super happy with the way it's gone so far? If I had to guess, I would say he'll keep it the same as he's been doing it. So Havertz will start in midfield, I reckon.
You reckon it'll be the same lineup that like started against Fulham and stuff?
Yeah, I reckon because another thing too, like United is probably one of those teams that isn't full of fight, in midfield. So
Yeah,
it's
but
actually
the
probably a
thing
good
is,
game for
Rashford
Havertz.
probably will start on the left, so that's Partey's side. If Partey starts at right back, so I think I'd rather have Ben White maybe on that side.
Yeah, yeah, I would too. But I mean, yeah, it's true. That is true. But maybe Partey doesn't even start. Maybe he's on the bench. I don't know. We'll see. It's definitely
It's a conundrum.
an interesting conundrum. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, and I think that's a good thing about Arsenal too is that they have so many options, right? Like you want your team to have as many options as possible, and have all these different ways to solve problems against the teams that come up against, because that shows you have a very good squad, and that shows that you have a manager who's invent like creative and happy to adapt to the scenarios, and which Arsenal have all of those things. So it's a good thing. Whereas United, I think they'll just pretty much start the same way that they've started all season this season.
How do you think Man United approach it, like with their starting 11? Because I think Mason Mount is now injured. So do you think they go with McTominay and Casemiro, or do you think they go with Ericsson
Ah,
and Casemiro? How do you think
I
they
think they go
line
with
up?
Ericsson.
You reckon
Yeah, I think they go with Ericsson. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
they don't take a
I think
bit
he
more of a
trusts him
defensive
more than
approach?
McTominay. Sorry,
They don't. You don't think he comes a little bit more defensive?
Ericsson's more defensive. You say?
No, McTominay's more defensive. So you don't think he takes a more defensive
Yeah,
approach?
I don't know. I just don't. I don't think so. Because the problem with McTominay, yes, he's more defensive, but also he's like him on the ball. He really makes the team suffer in that regard. And I don't think Ten Hag is like a defensive-minded manager. So I would imagine that he's going to try and go out there and put the team that he feels is the best to win the game, rather than the team that's less likely to lose the game. You know what I mean?
Mm.
So I think he'll put Ericsson in there. Um, is that the right choice? I think if I was a United fan, I would probably want to see Ericsson over McTominay play. So, but United need another midfielder pretty crucially, I would say, because They do lack a bit of quality in that midfield. And also, what's happening with the striker? He's still injured, isn't he?
I think
The guy
he.
that they bought.
I'm not sure whether he's still injured or not. Maybe he makes his debut this Sunday. But if let's say he's still injured, who's your front three?
Yeah,
Rashford plus who else? And do you put Rashford on the left or do you put him in the middle and then that opens up for Sancho? Do you put Martial
yeah.
through the
Well, I think
middle? Like, how do you approach it? Do you go for a spanner in the works and do you
so.
put Bruno as the number 9?
Yeah, but then you got to play. Who's the other midfielder that takes
You
Bruno's
put
position,
you put
especially if Mount's injured?
Ericsson as a 10 and then McTominay Casemiro.
Yeah, you could do that. You could do that. I don't know, but Bruno as a 9. I don't know. I just don't. I don't like that very much because then you're relying on your midfield to be able to service Bruno, right? You have to
Mm.
get him some service, and I just don't see that midfield of United being better than Arsenal's midfield. United will lose the midfield battle in this game. There's no doubt about it. Arsenal will win the midfield battle, and that's like obviously like that's like probably the most crucial battle in every game. But you want, I don't know, you just want your most solid midfield, I think, as United, and then everything else around it can sort of fall into place. But if you don't have like the strongest midfield, you'll lose that battle even more so, which is bad.
How do
That's like,
you how do you line up the front three then?
so I would say, I mean, unfortunately, you would want ideally Rashford out on the left, but because you don't have a striker, you have to start him as the number 9. And then on the left, you either start Sancho or Garnacho, which is sort of the same, to be honest, at the moment. And then you got Anthony, aka Alex, out on the right side.
Alex Anthony.
Alex Anthony.
Sounds like a comic book
He's a
character or
bit,
something like that, or like from
yeah,
something along those lines. Um,
yeah. But that's what I think. That's what I see. The front three for United, they're just going to kind of do the same thing because they don't really have the depth. Like who out of their bench would you want to see play against Arsenal? And there's not many players that you want to see.
but I don't know. It's sort of like talking about it now out in the open. It sort of feels like United can actually surprise Arsenal more with like I mentioned, playing Bruno as a 9, so then that frees up Rashford down the left, or playing Martial down the middle. That's not really a surprise, and then Rashford on the left. But there's it feels like there's a little bit more surprises there rather than with Arsenal's.
Yeah,
Maybe because Arteta's already sort of shown that he doesn't mind playing like Tomiyasu out on left back or Partey at right back and so on. So you sort of expect surprises, whereas with Ten Hag you don't really expect surprises on
yeah.
what he can offer.
Maybe I don't know. I feel like if anyone's going to have the better surprise, it's probably going to be Arsenal, just because your squad depth is just much better, and there's so many players in your bench that you could put on any time, and you'd be like, I'm happy with that guy playing. Whereas for United, there's like most of the bench, you just don't really want to see them come on.
Yeah, if
Like
the
they're
if the
they're
11 aren't doing it, then it's like, well, who do you bring on?
yeah, who's
Who's the
gonna
game
come on
changer?
that's gonna inspire the team? Yeah,
Yeah,
no one. They don't really have that player, and that's like probably the biggest issue with United at the moment is that if their 11 doesn't cut it, no one else is really going to do it. But yeah, it's going to be a good game. I'm very excited for it. And if I had to guess who's going to win, I would say Arsenal will win this game, especially being at home. But football being football, United still have quality players who can win a game. So it's going to be tight.
you know what else could be or work? Putting Tomiyasu at right back so that he can put Rashford in his pocket. That'd be interesting as well. But I feel
Yeah,
like Arsenal they should win, and I reckon they will win.
yeah,
I think it might be a little bit cagey though. I think it'll be like a. I think it'll be. I do feel like
yeah,
United have a goal in them, like one on the counter or something like that.
yeah, for sure.
I think it'll be like a 2-1 or a 3-1 for Arsenal.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. I feel like United are at their worst when they have to turn up to play. You know what I mean?
Mm.
But when they have to sit on the counter, and that's probably when they're the best, when
Yeah.
they're at the most dangerous on the counters. Um, so yeah, I guess Arsenal do need to be careful with that, and I'm sure they will. I just don't see a world where Arsenal don't win this game. They're just Arsenal just too good, and I guess the only way it doesn't work is if you know you have mistakes that happen, like football things,
Yeah,
like
like a
if
red
you like
card or a
one, two mistakes.
penalty,
Yeah, yeah, exactly, something like
like
that.
a stupid handball
But
or something as well. Like,
yeah, yeah. I mean, and referees, like I said, they have been making some strange calls recently, so you never know with that kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know. You guys are too good to not win against United. But yeah, we'll see. If you had to scoreline prediction, Nev, what do you reckon?
well, I gave a 2-1 or a 3-1 for Arsenal.
I was going to say 2-1. Yeah,
Yeah, but
great minds think alike.
I do feel like if Arsenal score first and if they score early, I reckon there might be like that sort of
It'd be a bloodbath.
that sort of blitz of like 2 or 3 goals, like in pretty much
Yeah,
succession, and then things will just calm down after that, and then United might get like a if it's going to be a 3-1, it will be like that, and then United get like a consolation like the 80th minute or something like that. If it's going to be a 2-1,
yeah,
I think Arsenal probably get the first goal, but like maybe like 20 minutes, 25 minutes in, and then United get one back before half time, and then Arsenal get one in the second half.
yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah.
how I
See,
reckon it
I can
might
see
play
it being
out.
like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to agree. If I had to guess, that's my guess. It would be like that. But yeah, it'll be exciting. It'll be an exciting game, and the Premier League's back. Which is so good. It's so nice to see the football that the Premier League provides to us all. Such fast paced, like incredible talent in that league. It's so good to watch.
It's good to watch until the Saudis take over and they steal all the players. But so far
It's
they're
true.
only
Yeah,
stealing the
yeah,
older ones, which is fine. Like they're not stealing the younger talent just
yeah,
yet.
yeah. Trust yet. Oh, we'll see about that. More to come on that, right? I guess it depends on how consistent they're going to be with all of these signings, because it's all well and good to do it one season, but can they do it for 5 seasons in a row, right? If they do it for 5 seasons in a row, then they're going to start getting some of these younger players
Yeah, exactly.
or some of the players at their peak of their careers, like 26, 28-year-old players. Then that's going to be bit bad or a lot bad, I guess. I mean, depends who you ask, right? I'm
Well,
sure there's some Saudi people out there who love the idea of their league becoming one of the best leagues in the world. So
you know what the thing will be though that will absolutely fuck up the European leagues if UEFA decides to allow Saudi to have a team in the Champions League, because then the players are like, well, okay, I can still play Champions League football
yeah,
even if I go
yeah,
there, and I can go there, get paid, 50 million a year, 100 million a year,
yeah,
tax free as well, because I think Saudi is even like a tax free country, sort of like Dubai, sort of like United Arab
yeah,
Emirates, and I can still play Champions League. I can still win the trophy with the big ears. It's like, oh man,
yeah,
like
yeah.
that will fuck
It's very
up
unlikely, isn't
Europe.
it?
That will fuck up Europe.
But the thing is, if you let them into the Champions League, then you have to have them play by the rules of the Champions League
Yeah,
and Europe, which is
then they have to.
financial fair play.
Yeah, they have to abide by that then. But if they can,
Like they would have to, right? Otherwise, you
they
can't
have
do
to.
that. You can't just let them in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's
Right
interesting.
now,
I,
there's no
I wonder.
rules.
I mean, maybe eventually, after the Saudis splurge all their money out and they get most of the players that they want, then maybe that's when they'll come into the European competitions, because then they don't have to go as crazy as they're going right now. Signing players for that much money, but also like the wages that these players are on, right?
It's
Which is
insane.
astronomical wages, crazy wages, right? Like I can't imagine these clubs are getting that much money in. You know what I mean? Like they don't have that many views. Their league doesn't produce that much money for these teams, so it's almost impossible for them to be in the green in terms of
Mm.
financial fair
Oh,
play, right? Like
100%. They have no
because the
TV
income is just
revenue.
that's right, exactly, and all of those things are really important for and like not only TV, but like around the world, they don't sell as many T-shirts as a
Mm.
club like Arsenal. They don't get as many views as Arsenal does on everything that they put out. So there's things like that. So I can't imagine that they could they could get into Europe with financial fair play and do it properly because it's just the way that those teams are set up, they're not really set up for that, right? So it's going to be interesting. I mean, I don't know if I kind of hate what's happening with all of this, but it's definitely changing things up in football a little bit, which can sometimes be a good thing, depending on how other clubs and teams react to it all, right?
Well, we'll finish with this, but do you think that maybe it's a good thing for the younger players because you're having all these older players leaving, like Hendo left, Fabinho left, they're still like 31, 32. Brozovic left.
Yeah,
Ruben Neves is the only one that's like younger than us, and he's left even though he was in the prime of his career, or he should be in the prime.
yeah,
But like other than that, all the players that are leaving, like if Mo Salah leaves, like imagine getting rid of a 32-year-old and still getting like 100 mil, 120 mil for him. But then
yeah,
it allows opportunities for like these younger players to then fill their shoes. So it's probably better for the younger generation that these guys aren't retiring at 34, 35, 36, but they're leaving
yeah,
the league at like 29, 30, 31. So maybe it's a good
yeah,
thing.
yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. In that regard, it is for sure. Like younger players have to step up, but in saying that, if the younger player is not necessarily ready to step up, and then you have to force him to step up, then you're gonna have a dip in quality
Mm.
in general, throughout the teams. But who knows, man? That could make it more exciting, I guess, too, because it's more of an even playing field now. The bigger teams they lost a lot of the big players. They're more evenly matched, with the other not so bigger clubs in the Premier League and all that sort of stuff. So it's definitely stirring the pot, and things are changing. And depending on how that goes, it could be good or bad, I suppose.
We'll see how it shapes up in the next year or two. But Mati,
Yeah, for sure.
I think we've gone like 17 minutes over what we said would go. Like we're going
Oh,
closer to an
nice,
hour rather than half an hour. But yeah, that's
nice, nice.
I think a little discussion about the game and then a little bit of sidetracks. I don't know, it's been good. At least keeping it a little bit shorter. But maybe we'll try and
Yeah,
get to the point quicker and stay on topic for future pods to keep them shorter.
yeah. Hey, we can only get better from here, mate.
Yeah,
We're only going to get better,
it's a start. It's a new it's a dawning of a new age pretty much for this podcast.
for sure.
Yeah. Well, Mati, it's been a pleasure having you on.
Well,
Hopefully,
yeah,
our
absolutely.
viewers, whoever they are, enjoyed seeing your lovely face
Yeah,
on this sunny morning for you.
give us a comment down below what you think about the Arsenal United game. Who's going to win? Some predictions. We'd love to hear it.
Yeah, yeah. Give us all your
Yeah.
love in the comments, and to everyone that tuned in, thanks for coming, and bye for now.